Deneen, can you do roll call, please?
Supervisor Flaherty.
Here.
Councilwoman Cataldi.
Present.
Councilman Cahill.
Here.
Councilman Nguyen.
Here.
Councilwoman Wright. Here. Town Attorney Genesi.
Present.
Okay, we have a packed house tonight. Always love to see that, and a pretty robust agenda. And our first item up is a very bittersweet one, at least from my perspective, but we have a proclamation for Matt Chatfield, the Executive Director of the Webster Economic Development Alliance. And I'm going to make my way toward the podium. Matt is leaving that position after 11 years on December 13th and joining the governor's office with New York State. So it's very exciting for him. That's the sweet part. The bitter part is he's a very valuable resource to the town that now the state gets. But let's head up to the podium with his family. And actually, would you like to go first? Sure. Okay. I told you we'd surprise you.
I don't usually do this or even come to these meetings, but board members, Supervisor Flaherty, 11 years ago, a job was posted that changed our lives. We had 3 young children, ages 4 and under, when Matt approached me about leaving his full-time position for a part-time opportunity with less pay and no benefits. To say most people would think that was crazy to make a move like that at that point in our lives is an understatement, but I knew this position was exactly matched to his passion he was looking for in a job. With my full support and encouragement, he took a giant leap of faith that it would be okay, and it has been more than just okay. Matt has done anything but treat WIDA as part-time, from putting Webster on the map as a finalist in the America's Best Communities competition, New York Forward grants, Reimagine Webster projects, and securing a major development opportunity like Fairlife coming to our community, Matt has given his all to ensure Webster is top of mind for local, state, and national opportunities. I'm not sure how many millions of dollars Matt has secured for our community because Matt doesn't count his wins. He continually looks for the next one. Throughout his tenure, our town has expanded its sidewalks, the village improvements have been continual, our waterfront has become a place for all to visit, and the hamlet of Webster has finally been put on a project board. Matt has served this position with utmost passion to help the people of Webster, the business owners, the leaders, and most importantly, the families who choose to live here. Last night, Matt shared with me his feelings in preparing for his final board meeting. I hope you know how hard this decision has weighed on him. He has loved his time as executive director of WIDA. He is grateful that he was given this chance and all the experiences he has gained through the last 11 years here. While he is looking forward to what's come in the next chapter, I know a piece of WIDA will always be with him. As the board considers the next leader, I would encourage you not to settle, although I think that will be a great challenge for you to do. I hope you find someone with the passion and love for this community, the qualifications necessary to get the job done, and the mindset to always be thinking about the next win for Webster. Of course, I'm his proud wife, but I think you will find him irreplaceable. Thank you for what WIDA has done for Matt and my family. It has given him the opportunity to find that a job can light his inner drive to truly make a difference. Thank you.
So Supervisor, how are you going to top
Yeah,
that?
I made a mistake. I made a mistake letting you go first. And to tell you the truth, we might need to get a frame for that speech. You should hang that up in your office. And you can do what you want with this, but very well said. And I couldn't agree with you more. And we do have a couple of WIDA, Webster Economic Development Alliance board members, I think, here tonight. Elena, I saw here from the bid. And Ryan Neenan from the Webster Central School District. And Greg Chambry, one of our advisors to WIDA, is in the back. Greg, I didn't see you sneak in there. And I think that says a lot about what they feel about Matt, because about 12 and a half hours ago, they started with a WIDA board meeting this morning, so it's been a bit of a long day. So I'll read this off. This is a proclamation for outstanding public service presented to Matt Chatfield. Whereas it is the intent of the Webster Town Board to recognize the outstanding efforts, contributions, and leadership within our town. For a decade, Matt Chatfield has been serving the Webster community through the Webster Economic Development Alliance, called WEDA, bolstering economic progress in our area. And whereas Matt first joined the precursor to WEDA, believe it or not, it was called WICKED, Webster Community Coalition for Economic Development. I think you know why we changed that. He joined as a specialist in 2014. In 2015, he was promoted to executive director of WEDA. And whereas Matt has brought a wealth of knowledge to the town of Webster through his professional career. Prior to his service through the Webster Community Coalition for Economic Development and WEDA, he worked in the private sector as a planner and a landscape architect for Bergman Associates and Clough Harbor and Associates. Matt holds a Master of Urban Planning degree from the University of Buffalo and a landscape architecture degree from the number 2 ranked Penn State University in football. That's not in there, but I thought I'd throw it in there, Matt. His background has served our community well. And whereas since 2014, WEDA, led by Matt, has secured $15,187,769 for projects and initiatives in the town and village of Webster. This funding has supported impactful projects in Webster, including Ridge Road sidewalks, the West Webster Hamlet revitalization study, and the Sandbar Park revitalization through the READY projects. And whereas Matt was heavily involved with the Greater Rochester Enterprise and other local efforts to help to track Project Izzo, which now we know as Coke Fairlife, to Webster. In addition, he has championed efforts to improve transportation infrastructure in the town's industrial area, including the redevelopment of portions of the former Xerox site by obtaining a Brownfield Opportunity Area, BOA, designation, also known as the Reimagine Webster Initiative. And whereas Matt's partnership with the town of Webster through WEDA has ensured that economic growth is advocated for in our community, we are grateful for his service. Now, therefore, it be resolved, as the supervisor of the town of Webster, on behalf of the Webster Town Board and the entire Webster community, we extend our sincere wishes to Matt as he embarks on the next chapter of his career.
Thank you. Kind words. I mean, my wife blew me away. My remarks are going to be very, very brief, but I'd like to begin by thanking and expressing my sincere gratitude to both the town board and the Webster Economic Development Alliance Board of Directors for the trust and confidence that they have placed in me during my tenure. It's been an incredible journey, and this organization has facilitated so many significant projects within the community. And those will continue to be recognized in the many years to follow. And although great things do lie ahead, there is much to be proud of. And I also want to thank my family. In particular, actually I want to thank my father, Peter Chatfield, for teaching me at a young age what it means to volunteer and use your gifts and your talents to give back to your community. And lastly, I do want to thank my wife, Christy. Devoting my time and efforts to the many achievements for the Alliance in our community would not have been possible without her unwavering support these past 11 years. She's always been my biggest cheerleader, as you can see, and believer, and for that, I am especially grateful. And thank you once again for all the invaluable opportunities. I am confident in the continued success of WEDA for the future of our community. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks,
Matt,
Matt.
thank you.
And I'm glad there's a good crowd here tonight, but I know people are watching live and all that. It said 15 million plus that he's secured. That's where it stands right now. When he leaves in a week, there are still grant applications that he was the driver on that we're waiting to hear about awards. So that number can only go up after he leaves once the awards, we find out if we got them or not. He's really done a phenomenal job. Okay. I know that Matt's kids want to stay for this whole meeting, all right, and I understand why, okay? I mean, who wouldn't wanna, all right? But, yeah, I'd also understand if you had to go, you have homework or something like that, okay? Right. Okay, so here's the thing, I want to take a little executive privilege and move around the order of some things so that we make sure we don't miss anybody. For what I can kind of tell from the 20 minutes before the meeting started is going to be a robust public hearing on the consideration for a PDD at 799 Holt Road. And I think there might be still some people funneling in that might want to speak. So what I want to do is we'll do the public hearing on the Restore New York project, which nobody signed in to speak at. Not surprising, it's somewhat of a housekeeping item, wouldn't you say, Josh, that in advance of applying for the grant, which this shouldn't surprise you, who was the lead person writing the grant?
Mr. Matt.
Matt Chatfield, all right. He promised me he'd have it submitted by the time he leaves on December 13th. So, just part of the procedural aspect of this is you have to set a public hearing, and so we did. And here it is. So I'm going to open that public hearing, and like I said, nobody had signed in. I don't know what they would sign in to talk about except for go for it. So the public hearing is open, and there is nobody who is speaking at it. Do you know what you would be speaking about?
I do. It would be very brief.
Head up, my friend.
Hello, good evening, board, Webster, everyone here. My name is Andrew Geiser. I am a lifelong resident of Webster, West Webster to be specific, member of the St. Rita's Parish, and graduate of the Webster CSD. I am intimately familiar with the West Webster Hamlet, and I think funding some restoration efforts would be great. I do want to voice my opinion that where possible, the historical character of the buildings there, I believe should be preserved. The Furniture Strippers is a beautiful brick building, currently sitting vacant, but I think it would be a real shame to just let those bones go to waste. The same with the previous Jade Palace building. So whatever happens, I hope that the historical character of the area is considered. Thank you.
Well said, Andrew, and I will say that, and Matt, you've been a driving force behind this. We are trying to shake the trees to find out some private investors who are interested in renovating those buildings. And that is part of this grant that we're applying for next week, gives us the latitude to have some time to continue to try to find those investors. I will say, to date, and with some pretty robust marketing out to the community and private investors, we have not found anybody yet. But Andrew, see if you can find somebody. All right. Anybody else want to speak on that one? All right. That closes out the public hearing on that. Any town board members have any questions or comments?
No.
No, we discussed this at a workshop last.
We
2
did.
weeks ago.
And so here's what I would like to do. Because there is right now, I think, 17 people signed in to speak at the PDD for $7.99. Let's get rid of the housekeeping items first, so that one is, if more people come through the door, they can speak at the public hearing. So I'm going to move forward and get through the resolutions first here. So the first item up that we're going to do is minutes to be considered for approval. I reviewed the November 21st workshop minutes. I make a motion, we approve them.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Councilwoman Nguyen?
Aye.
Councilwoman Wright?
Aye.
And I also looked at the regular town board meeting minutes from November 21st. I make a motion, we approve those.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilwoman Nguyen?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wright.
Aye.
John, I think, was it you? The bills? Oh,
Yes. I did inspect the bills. I did find them to be in order, and I would move that to pay the bills as submitted by the Director of Finance.
Second.
Councilman Cahill,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wright,
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty,
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wynn.
Aye.
And I went through the prepaid warrants as submitted by Paul Adams, our Director of Finance. Make a motion that we approve those.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty,
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi,
Aye.
Councilman Cahill,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wynn,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wright.
Aye.
And I also went through the purchase orders as submitted by Paul Adams, our Director of Finance, and make a motion that we approve those.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty,
Aye.
Councilman Cahill,
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wynn,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wright.
Aye.
The next one, Keith, is the applicant here? Okay. As he is going to find out if they're outside, I'm gonna move to number 5. This was submitted by several people who live around the Clem and Hojack Trail location. There's been some parking issues there. And our highway superintendent said that, yes, it's appropriate that we could put some no parking signs there. Checked it out with the MCDOT, Monroe County Department of Transportation, because Clem is a Monroe County road. So we can't just go out and put our signs on Monroe County roads. But any questions from the board on that?
No.
No.
No, I think it's a safety issue and it makes sense.
So I make a motion to install the no parking signs at the Clem Road and Hojack Trail location.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wynn,
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi,
Aye.
Councilman Cahill,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wright.
Aye.
Okay, Keith, we'll move back to number 4, which is a fill permit for 1496 and 1536 Ridge Road.
Okay, thank you Supervisor. Tonight, we have as was mentioned, we have a fill permit for property 1496, 1536 Ridge Road. This is a fill permit that's intended to raise the grade of the property by 3 to 5 feet across these two particular parcels. Just some details of the work. The access to this is off of Ridge Road. We're expecting a total disturbance of around 7.4 acres. Total area fill is around 7. As I mentioned, we're about 3 to 5 feet of raised grade. And we're estimating that this is about a 25,000 cubic yards worth of fill. And they're going to take advantage of this fill that is occurring from the Coke Fairlife project. Now, part of our review has included the fill permit application. It has included a fill permit plan. There has also been a letter submitted by BME Associates, as well as some site reconnaissance with some site pictures that are in your package. At this point, as part of this fill permit, the engineering department has reviewed it in detail, and we are in support of this application tonight, with the caveats that a driveway permit will be obtained from New York State DOT, since Route 104 is a state roadway. There is a note to the plans that we are going to ask them to revise. It's note 6, which is regards to drainage along Ridge Road. They indicated that it's the town's responsibility, and it's actually maintained by New York State DOT. We are going to ask them to provide us a detail on the silt trench. It's sort of a novel approach to containing silt and runoff. So we were looking to have that provided to us so that we can review and confirm, as opposed to adding silt fence. So depending on where we go with that, but it'll either be a silt trench, silt fence, or a combination of those. We're also asking for them to obtain a notice of intent from the New York State DEC. To do that, they'll have to create or do a SWIP, So that is to help contain and confirm containment of runoff. We will want a 5-day notice to the engineering department prior to work starting. Slopes can be no greater than 2 feet horizontal by 1 foot rise. All grading work to be completed on the applicant's property. It cannot alter the grades or drainage or impacts to adjacent properties that are not owned by this particular applicant. It can't have any adverse impacts on any of the surrounding properties. We certainly will be watching as this work is occurring, and we'll be noting if we feel it is happening. We'll want to make sure that, and we'll be following closely all of the erosion control measures that have been identified on their fill permit plan, sheet 01A. And if there's any additional measures as their work is started out there that we feel need to be implemented, we will make sure that those occur. Certainly comply with all the noise ordinances of the town, and that we are allowed on-site at any time to do our inspections or observations.
Wait a minute, that's it?
That's it.
Now, all jokes aside, Keith, honestly, I really appreciate all of that detail, and I'm sure the town board does too, because this is not the typical fill permit. This is a large amount of fill. And so any fill permit needs to be monitored and make sure that we have it done the right way. I appreciate that you read all that out, and that will go into the record on this. Any questions from the board members?
No.
No, he addressed my first concern is how it would affect the neighboring properties, and it sounds like you've got a good eye on that, so I appreciate it.
We absolutely will.
I would make a motion to approve a fill permit for 1496 and 1536 Ridge Road.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty,
Aye?
Councilwoman Cataldi,
Aye.
Councilman Cahill,
Aye.
Councilman Wynn,
Aye.
Councilman Wright.
Aye.
All right, next up, and Andrew, do you have the agenda? Okay, so I want you to spend less time thinking about the word demolish and more time thinking about the word rehabilitate. Because this resolution, like I said earlier, we have the latitude, and this gives us time to continue to find, if they're out there, somebody who would want to renovate the historic aspect of 600 Ridge. But ultimately, if nobody like that is found out, we may have to, if we get this grant, move to demolish. So this resolution is definitely spawning off of the public hearing tonight and several workshop presentations on this and a lot of things that have happened in the past. Does the board have any questions on it?
No.
I make a motion to apply for the Restore New York funding to demolish and/or rehabilitate an area of ridge and gravel roads in the town of Webster.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty,
Aye?
Councilwoman Cataldi,
Aye.
Councilman Cahill,
Aye.
Councilman Wynn,
Aye.
Councilman Wright.
Aye.
Yeah, I will say that, past performance, they say, doesn't dictate what'll happen in the future, but in the past, Matt, I know you're in Josh, the Restore New York grant apply in December, usually mid-March you find out if you got awarded. So maybe in the spring of '25, we'll find out if we got awarded on this. Next up is something that I can't do the resolution. Jennifer, it falls into your.
Yep,
but
I had a
it's-
conversation with
yeah.
Pat today, so, this is a long-standing agreement with, I believe it's with the state, to plow the state roads that are located in the town of Webster, so it provides some revenue to the town, and there's no changes in the language to this contract. So therefore, I will make a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign an agreement to extend the municipal snow and ice agreement with the New York State Department of Transportation for snow and ice control services.
Second.
Councilman Wright,
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi,
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty,
Aye?
Councilman Cahill,
Aye.
Councilman Wynn.
Aye.
The next one I can't do either, but this was the workshop tonight. So
I would move to authorize the town supervisor to sign a one-year agreement ending December 31st, 2025 with Pilato Entertainment Marketing and Media LLC for publication of the town magazine, Webster Today, for an amount not to exceed $46,000 inclusive of postage.
Second.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Councilwoman Wright?
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilman Wynn?
Aye.
Next up, I want to say that it was the November 21st workshop that McAlpin Industry came in and presented a concept of what they were looking at potentially doing over on Publishers Parkway. This is a resolution to basically have the town board refer it over to the planning board and start letting them do their due diligence if it has any merit. So, any questions on this?
No?
I make a motion to refer McAlpin Industries' proposed project at 875 Publishers Parkway to the planning board for the purpose of site plan review.
Second?
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye?
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilwoman Wynn?
Aye.
Councilwoman Wright?
Aye.
Okay, the next one is me just maybe being a nervous Nelly, but on November 7th, we did a resolution to set a public hearing for Ridge Commons to amend their PDD. PDD seems to be the term of the night. And it was supposed to be tonight. A couple days after we did that, the developer, their engineer and/or legal counsel said, you know what? We want to stand pat for right now, and we don't want to pursue that. And that's great, but Charlie, I talked to you and I said, well, if we don't do something to put a ribbon around this, someone's going to look at our records in 5 years and say, whatever happened at that public hearing? That's my layman term explanation of this. Any questions?
No.
Nope.
Okay, I make a motion to cancel the November 7, 2024 resolution number 320 to set a public hearing for December 5th, 2024 on the Progressive Development District PDD amendment for Ridge Commons.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye?
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Councilman Wynn?
Aye.
Councilwoman Wright?
Aye.
All right. And the next one, I just want to make sure, because I want to read into this the not to exceed and also the date. Campus Construction Management has been doing, I think the board all agrees, yeoman work overseeing the Coke Fairlife project for the town of Webster. The current contract we're in with them is basically coming to an end, and unfortunately, well, Coke Fairlife is not built yet. They still have another, probably all close to a year. So we need to consider either saying, thank you, campus, you've done great work to now, but we'll take it from here, which is frightening, or to continue this contract, sign the extension from the original contract back in February of '24. It is, I know the board saw this, it was not to exceed $142,000, and it would run till December 31st of 2025, so about 13 months from now. Why can I not find this? I don't know. Does the board have any questions on that? Because that would be the verbiage I'm adding into this.
No, we had a very good discussion with respect to their responsibilities, what they are currently covering, and what we need them to continue to cover.
Okay. So actually, that's the number, not to exceed 142, and through December 31st, 25. So whoever wants to make that motion, they could add it in.
I think it's also important to note on this that the funding for this is coming through many of the fees for that project, which enable us to have that additional level of support to
Yeah.
manage such a complex project. So with that, I'll make a motion to authorize the town supervisor to sign an extension of the Campus Construction Management Incorporated project coordinator services for Coca-Cola Fairlife project for the town of Webster. Not to exceed $2,000, and to extend through December 31st, 2025.
Second.
Councilman Wright,
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi,
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty,
Aye.
Councilman Cahill,
Aye.
Councilman Wynn.
Aye.
Brayton, is he here? Yeah, Brayton, I know that you've introduced to the board this concept. I don't know if you want to give, we have a pretty big crowd here tonight, so, I mean, you want to give a little summary of what this is about?
I'll be succinct in saying that, as all employers, we face a dwindling recruitment pool and increased competition for talent. And so we are constantly exploring our package of benefits and compensation, as well as exploring different recruitment pools, and one of those is retirees from public service. One of the advantages of retirees to public service is that that if they don't rejoin the pension system and they were to come work for us, we don't have to contribute towards their pension. And so we want to be more attractive to them by sharing a portion of that savings with them. And also, it doesn't disrupt our compensation classification based on position duties. So it is essentially similar to what we do with health insurance. When someone doesn't take health insurance with the town, obviously the town doesn't have to pay that expense, but we provide a buyout fee, and we create savings for the town as well as a benefit for the employee, and we get a win-win. And so the same concept would be here in basically a limited window. That would just be another tool in our toolbox for recruitment.
Does the board have any questions on this?
I do not.
I make a resolution for the New York State Retirement System buyout as of January 1st, 2025.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty,
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi,
Aye.
Councilman Cahill,
Aye.
Councilman Wynn,
Aye.
Councilman Wright.
Aye.
All right, well, this one, I'm going to leave to John, since John is the liaison to EMS, and this is a banner moment, I think.
Yeah, I would say. It's
Well,
been a
it's-
long road, right?
It's the end of the beginning.
Yes.
Who said it, Churchill?
Yeah.
It's the end of the beginning. Now we got to go negotiate a contract.
Well, I moved that we enter contract negotiations on the EMS agency recommended by the EMS committee, Penfield Volunteer Ambulance.
Second.
Councilman Cahill,
Aye.
Councilman Wynn,
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty,
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi,
Aye.
Councilman Wright.
Aye.
Excuse
Okay.
me, there's chairs up here if you would like to come up and sit down.
Thank you, Jenny. I didn't, you know why I didn't see it? That darn beam. Hey. Okay, guess what? That only took 19 minutes to go through all that housekeeping and those things. It was like watching grass grow, wasn't it? But hey, that's the business of the town board. If anybody's ever thinking of running for office, that's kind of what we do. Now, so here's the thing, I'm sure there are more people that have come in that want to speak, but I just want to, before I open the public hearing on the consideration of a PDD at 799 Holt Road, the approximate 70 acres that used to be the, I guess, lumberyard. It predates me, I don't remember it being a lumberyard, Charlie, maybe, I don't know.
I do.
Do you? Okay, well, but I just want to make sure everybody understands, because this is great. This is local government at its best. You guys all came out on a cold, wintry night. This is fantastic. But I just want to tell you, there are a little bit of rules of engagement, some decorum that goes into these public hearings. So, Before I put the mallet down and I start asking the speakers to come up, a couple of things to note. One, hopefully everybody got a chance to get in their possession or share with a neighbor the one-page fact sheet on just what the process would be to have a PDD and have a development, especially at this particular site. Layman terms, tonight is not the be-all and end-all in this process. It is actually just the beginning of the process, one that potentially has 4 more public hearings if it proceeds. 2, very important, the town board is not voting on this tonight. We are not voting. We are not taking a vote on whether we're issuing a PDD for that site tonight. We don't know what people are going to say. We are continuing to get things mailed into us, emailed into us. As I sit here, they're coming in, calls coming in. By the way, and my friend Diana Davis, not all against it, by the way. The board's going to need time to gather all that information. We can't take that all of a sudden and say, hey, 5 minutes after the public hearing, we're going to vote. So, not happening tonight. 3, it says it on the agenda. It's up to 5 minutes to speak for each person. The worst part of my job, by far, as the town supervisor, is when I got to sit there and tell somebody, you're at 4:45. There's no nice way to say it, and it just ticks people off. Don't put me in that position. Don't put yourself in that position. It would be nice for all of us. We might get home to see the second half of the football game. 4, I think I'm at 4, and this is very important. Like I said, a lot of information coming in writing. Mr. Daly, basically, or Counselor Daly here, all right? He wrote a War and Peace letter to me that I'm waiting for books on tape to actually read it. That's what I'm talking about, so much information coming in, and a lot of that information coming in has questions. Well, we don't answer those questions that come in by phone or email. We gather the questions in a forum like this. So if you're thinking you'll get up there tonight and you'll start spouting off questions and expect the town board to engage in answering them, we're not going to do that tonight. What we will do is chronicle the questions, and certainly if you all give us your email addresses and whatever, so we can get all the questions answered and out to you as quickly as we can. If there's 3 questions, it'll probably be sooner than later. If it's 172 questions, I don't know how quickly we can get those out. I guess last but not least, that's where you speak, at the podium. It's a great thing. You have the chance to go up and speak. But before you go up there and after you go up there, you can't speak from the audience. First of all, none of the cameras or microphones, no one's going to hear you. And it's just not the way it works. So please, stick to the decorum of a public hearing. It's wonderful. You'll get a chance to go up there and say everything you want to say, and then you'll go back and sit down, and you'll let the other person that go up there and take their up to 5 minutes. So those are my 5 things. Charlie, have I missed anything?
That sounds good.
Okay. With that being said, it is 8:09. I'm going to open the public hearing on the consideration for a PDD at 799 Holt Road. And our first speaker is Alex, Shiloni? Sheldon. Yeah, I could see that.
Hi, my name is Alex Sheldon. I've been a resident of Webster most of my life. I grew up in the West Webster Penfield area, going to Webster schools my entire career. Pretty much right on the border, so, you know, I don't know if I was technically in the town of Webster then, but we were in that weird area. About 7 years ago, my wife and I moved to Brooksboro Drive, out down off of Salt Road. It's a beautiful area. We have the golf courses right there, tons of farmland, and there are so many nature preserves and wonderful places to go where I love to take my son. In fact, you probably, if you're out that way, saw me changing his diaper multiple times on the Bird Sanctuary Trail and at Whiting Road because I brought him every morning while I was home with him. Over the past few years, I've witnessed a lot of that areas start to go away. The golf course, the 2 farmlands on Salt Road near my house for one, and now we're looking at areas on Phillips and everywhere where it's just up for review, and we just feel like we need to stop. We need to just wait a minute and see what everybody wants to do. I know a lot of people here just want to cool it on the development. There's a lot going on right now. We already have townhomes going in on Bella Terrace, I think it is, at Schlegel and Salt, which we were originally told was going to be owned properties, and despite the giant outline that we have there, something changed along that way, and it's now rental properties, which makes no sense to us that that was able to happen. So before we even get started with this process for senior housing, we should do a bigger review, hear what everybody has to say, because there's so little left. I want to leave Webster as a great place for my son, and I feel like it's starting to go away. Also, a quick Google search will reveal plenty of options for senior housing and low-income housing in the area, including what is going to be right across the border in Penfield at 250 in Atlantic. It's just starting now. I know that there are more processes after this and that they're supposed to stop it along the way, but I also know that once it gets going, how quickly that can steamroll and how quickly it can keep going down. And we just need to cool it. There's a lot going on. We don't know about the wetlands in there. We don't know what's in the soil. We don't know this. They're ready. I'm tired of seeing the bulldozing of all the nature that we have in our area. And I grew up walking these trails, spending my life here, and I want my son to have the same thing. And I don't want that option being taken away from him so prematurely. Not to mention the fact that, as you've seen in other towns like Penfield, where they can purchase, they will put up for a vote for lands being purchased by the town because the residents wanted to do that. If we get this PDD, it's going to skyrocket the price to where that is unaffordable because more people could come and purchase that land. But that is all for me. Thank you.
Well said, Alex. Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, I was going to say on the 6th outburst, but the golf clap, I'm happy with. That was good. You can continue that if you'd like. Next, I hope I'm not embarrassing him, but this is a grammar school friend of mine, Jim Larragee. He might not admit it.
Thank you, Supervisor and board members. I'm Jim Larragee. I live on Railway Crossing. That's just the street north of this development project. I already sent an email of I'll just kind of read my email I sent you. I'm concerned about the environmental impact, the loss of green space. Development will significantly affect the natural environment, particularly the wetlands and woodlands that are currently protected under the Environmental Protection Overlay District. The back portion of the parcel, which includes vital wetlands and woodlots, is essential for maintaining local wildlife habitats and water quality. The destruction of these areas would lead to fragmentation of the ecosystems, disrupting the balance of our natural surroundings. It is crucial that these areas be preserved for the health of the environment and future generations. This project would increase traffic congestion. The construction of 361 residential units, including a multi-story apartment buildings, will undoubtedly lead to increased traffic congestion on already heavily trafficked Holt Road. The local infrastructure is not equipped to handle such a significant increase in traffic, which would result in longer commute times, increased accident risks, and greater strain on the surrounding neighborhoods. It'll impact property values and community character. The scale and nature of this development could result in a decline in property values in surrounding residential areas. The shift from low-density residential character to a more urbanized setting with high-rise apartments would negatively affect the aesthetic appeal of the neighborhood and reduce the overall livability for residents. I urge the town to consider these factors carefully before providing any plans that could permanently alter the community's character. Zoning changes and precedent for future development, the use of a progressive overlay district in this is zoned an office park, raises concerns about setting a precedent for similar high-density development areas in areas originally designed for green space and low-density office use. The proposed development's request for increased density and reduced green space could pave the way for further developments in zones that should be preserved for future generations. We must ensure that our zoning laws reflect the community's values of preservation and responsible growth. You have a 2008 146-page Town of Webster comprehensive plan, and I think you should follow it and not change the zoning. Community need and appropriateness. I believe it is important to carefully assess whether there is a real community need for this particular type of development. Vacancies in existing senior housing facilities suggest that there may not be an immediate demand for 361 new units of housing. Additionally, the shift from senior housing to more general income restricted apartments due to changes in state law, that proposal 1 that was just passed, could alter the project's intended purpose and lead to increased pressure on local infrastructure and services. More kids enrolled in the school system, increased taxes, more police, possibly more crime, just because increased population density brings more crime, because crime happens where people are. You're holding all the cards. Don't rush to sign away one of the few natural spaces left in Webster. Let others weigh in. I know most of my neighbors aren't aware of this yet. I've only been aware of it a few days. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. And Jim, did you say that you had emailed in that?
Yes, I did.
I received it.
Okay.
Yeah, I sent it to each of you individually.
All right.
I got it at 3:01 today.
Oh, okay, all right. All right,
Thank you.
thank you, Jim. Next up is Dave Malecki.
Got a prepared statement I'll give you after, so you can copy it down. I'm Dave Malecki, and this is in regards to the PDD at 799 Holt Road. I've read the town code and see the PDD status should make it easier for the town and the developer to come to an agreement. The suggestions I have for this project relate to improving walkability. First, a direct connection to the Hojack Trail should be made. Second, sidewalks along Holt Road should be made. AARP has a walk audit toolkit worksheet available online if you want to see what makes the location walkable. My neighborhood gets a graded D on their worksheet. Your goal should be to get an A. See aarp.org/NY walks. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. John Lagabino is next.
Hi, my name's John Lagambino. I live on 784 Maple Drive. I've been a resident for almost 34 years. The board should respect the comprehensive plan process. The land in question has been identified on previous plans as significant green space. With the plan update imminent, this is the wrong time to change the EPOD. Thanks.
Thanks, Ben. Judy Scott. Oh, she the woman who's urgent care? Okay. Jerry Goldman.
I am going to make a request. We've done a number of these hearings. This is my partner, Betsy Brugg, by the way, my land use partner. Evan Caffell is a project engineer. I'm going to make a request. Typically, we do a presentation at the beginning, and then everyone gets to see the plan, and then there's comments relative to it, and the like. I think it may be appropriate for us to speak at the end of receiving all the comments, and perhaps we can address some of them. If you want us to do 5 minutes now, we can do that as well. I'll ask the supervisor, what's his preference?
Jerry, was it November 7th? I mean, that you came in and wasn't there, you showed what it's going to look like, the 360 units and all that? Is that essentially what you're looking to do?
Well, but it is the public hearing, and this is the record for which we would be dealing with it from a legal point of view. We do apparently have counsel here who is going to critique every step that the town takes on this. So we do want to, at least at a threshold level, address what it is we are proposing and where we want to go.
Okay, well, let me,
5 minutes. All right.
Jerry, give it a shot. I haven't started the timer yet, all right? I gave you a little extra there because I wasn't sure. I actually
Okay.
thought you were going to sit
No,
down.
that's fine.
So
That's fine.
Here we
I
go.
will ask if Josh can put up the plan so that we can take a look at it. Is that available?
I can try to work on it.
Okay, if not, let me just explain. I think everyone's familiar with the property. It's approximately 67 acres. And we are proposing a maximum density of 361 units on this particular site. The use of the PDD in the office park has been something which has become a part of what has been done in this office park district over the course of the years. To the north of us, we have multiple residents. To the east of us, we have multiple residents. To the west of us, Monarch Senior Living, we have multiple residents. Most of the development which has occurred within the OP district has been this type of residential development. To put an office park here actually would probably be inconsistent with what is going on with the rest of the development in the area. The plan itself, I will take a second with the plan itself and talk about it. What we have done is that we are sensitive to wetland areas, maintaining a lot of contiguous woodlot areas as well within the concept plan. Now understand, this is a concept plan. This has to go through a process with the planning board for full site plan review, back to this board as a supervisor noted for a special permit afterwards. But one of the major improvements for this project is the construction of a dedicated road on this site to connect with Abigail and essentially provide an east-west connection parallel to Route 104. This is something which has been desired by the town for quite a bit of time to relieve traffic and relieve traffic pressure. This would be done by the developer. Preliminary costs would indicate that this could be anywhere from $750,000 or up dollars. Our estimate right now is approximately $800,000 to construct that road and all the improvements which are necessary for what is an arterial which will really serve the entire community on the site. A lot of what we have heard both at the November 7th meeting and since has basically been that we should put this property on ice, if you will, until the completion of the comprehensive plan process. Well, comprehensive plan process just had their contract let It is scheduled to be an 18-month process. I know in my experience, an 18-month process for a comprehensive plan often becomes 2 years, often becomes 2.5 years. And code changes after that generally can run a full year in terms of taking place. So we essentially would be having arguably a temporary taking of this property during that period. And that's something that I think municipalities would have to avoid in terms of dealing with it. The town board does have to take a look at the plan and determine whether at a threshold level to send it to the planning board for review and analysis. I can tell you, we are not fully engineered on this. This is a concept plan. It could be that the density may turn out to be less. May turn out that some of the buildings may be in different places a little bit, but at the end of the day, that will be flushed out through the planning board process, and we'll come back to this board for a special permit. But the town board is supposed to take a look at 3 criteria as a part of the PDD. One is whether the project is conceptually sound in that it meets a community need. To that extent, we do have a letter from Rose Gabrielli, who is a broker in the market, establishing that in fact there is a market demand for senior housing. And we urge that you read that. If there's need for more backup and background before a final determination, we'd be glad to provide that as well. Second criteria is that the plan encourages sound development in the interest of safety and general welfare of the public. In essence, the road connection itself is in the interest of safety and also in the interest of the general welfare of the public. The third is that the plan show a development pattern in harmony with this chapter in the comprehensive plan. Well, comprehensive plan is a 2008 document, but as well takes into account the development which has occurred subsequent to that time. The up on Railroad Crossings, Cambridge Court, you take Legends to the east, you take Monarch to the west. That essentially is the pattern, and that provides the comprehensive plan, if you will, supplementing, of course, the 2008 plan. It does provide for that pattern throughout the site. We have received certainly a number of comments, or the town has received a number of comments. And
Jerry, we're
and
at 5:40. We're
I
at
know.
5:40 now.
I'm at 5:40. You want me to have Evans? I can have Evans speak too. But in essence, I won't do that. I won't do that. In essence, we will hear the comments tonight. We will write down those comments. I understand you aren't going to vote tonight. We'll provide a written response in which addresses the comments that we hear and that we receive.
Okay. Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you very much.
No golf clap for Jerry? Thank you. Now, that's decorum. It's the holiday season, right? All right, we get a twofer. Andrew?
Good evening again. As I said before, my name is Andrew Geiser. I'm a 21-year resident of Webster. I'm 21 years old, and I think my age brings a unique perspective to this. You want some comments on this development? I say stop selling our future. I am from Webster. I have a friend here from Webster. We grew up here. We care about this place. I don't see how providing housing based on economics or something else, when we really don't need more senior housing, is going to benefit the welfare of the town. I am a student of a few things at the University of Rochester, and one of them is ecology. The non-human residents of Webster, the flora, the fauna, Even the land, I think, matters just as much as everyone here in this room, matters just as much as the entire residents of the town of Webster. I mean, just down the road from where this proposed development is being proposed is a bird sanctuary. Webster is an important flyover spot. It's home to wildlife such as deer. Recently, woodland fishers have been respotted in the region after their populations were decimated due to development like the proposed senior living project. So I ask, when is enough? I love this town. What I don't love about it is the seemingly endless development. I have seen woodland on Ridge Road down the street from where I live developed when we were told it wasn't going to be. I've seen more housing, I've seen more commercial development occur every day. And even in my short 21 years, the town has transformed. We have to have an eye towards the future, an eye for what my life is going to be in Webster in 30 years. If I choose to have children, what their life is going to be. And I think that the quality of life in this town where life is worth living depends on access to green space and just protected green space in general for the non-human aspect of our communities. We can't keep pretending that cutting this little parcel here, cutting that little parcel there will not have an effect, because eventually there's going to be nothing left for water filtration. There's going to be nothing left for wildlife. And the town will become dead and sterile. At the University of Rochester, I live down the street from West Henrietta Road. And I hope I don't offend anyone by saying this, but it is, quite frankly, hell on earth. It is endless commercial lots with high-density apartment and senior living interspersed. There's maybe a few blocks here and there of undeveloped land, but I don't like being there. And I know I'm not the only one who does not like being in that environment. I think as this procedure continues, both the board and members of the community have to consider the costs of unfettered development and how that's going to influence the immediate future and the far future for our kids, for our grandkids, and so on. Thank you.
Andrew, well said. That, I don't recall in my 5 years as supervisor, a 21-year-old taking the podium at a public hearing and being that articulate, if at all a 21-year-old taking it, so very nice. Well, Andrew Garland, you got to follow that. Where's Andrew Garland? Did Andrew Garland say, I'm not following that?
I think that's what happened. I think he just got up and left.
You think that he, wait a minute. Andrew Garland is not here? Well, Andrew, guys, are you really, let's see if anybody, Janice, you'll follow him, right? Come on, come on.
Janice Jackman, 27 Westover Drive. I honestly came here tonight so I could kind of sit and listen and take it in. I didn't necessarily have something specific in mind. I appreciate the gentleman who spoke before me. It's refreshing to hear someone talk about flora and fauna and not just buildings and development. Webster does cite itself as being the place where life is worth living. I guess that's the mantra here. I would challenge Webster to also be known before it's too late as being a place that welcomes conservation that welcomes protection of wildlife. And notice the term wildlife. We are talking about life. And it's not just human life in this world that matters. I'd like to know what conservation efforts are being made in addition to parks. I'm not interested in that conversation. But real conservation efforts, when we talk about a property that may be 70 acres deep, instead of just talking about the apartments and the parking and the signage and whatever else goes with it, what steps are being taken to work on the behalf of conservation? Are we talking about corridors? Are we talking about preservation of trees? I find it interesting that when I've been here at other meetings, whether here or planning board, and we've talked about dead trees. I think this has been more specific to the Birdsong Trail property. And yet Montreal is a city that has come on everyone's radar as a city that is preserving dead and diseased trees, because it ends up becoming home to over 1/5 of birds who make nests along with squirrels and raccoons. And this has been happening for over 30 years. You know, there are cities that are known for being pro-environment and pro-animal conservation. And I would like to encourage Webster to follow suit and not just be the land of eternal development. But if you are going to develop, let's hear the conversation about what active steps we're taking to preserve and encourage life. Again, I think I've said it before, if this planning board or at this town board and planning board meetings as well, the 5 or 6 of you who sit there, you represent all life. And all I hear about really is human life and human development, and that's fine. And we're here, and we're a dominant species. Yet I'm here, and I think the gentleman before me, we are trying to represent those who do not have a voice. And just tonight as I sat there, and I'm sure my time is almost up, I envisioned, what if I could put, honestly, I thought of this, what if I could put a deer right here, maybe through AI, and if you all got to look at it, its beauty, its eyes, everything, that these animals have souls, and we just keep taking away, but I'm not hearing the conservation efforts being made, knowing that these animals suffer every time a plot of land goes up or goes to a developer. And I would just, okay, life is worth living for humans. I'd like it to become known, like Montreal, as cities that are taking steps, and Montreal's a much bigger city, obviously, than the town of Webster. But these cities are taking steps, not only to be known for, but just to do the right thing, to be conservationists for the wetlands, for the trees, whether dead or diseased. Look at how Montreal has made a decision to preserve many of them, to provide homes in a city landscape. And that is what I'd like to encourage you to do, to be a little bit more proactive. And as we're going to talk about and hold up the board for, oh, here's what we want to do on this plot of land. Conversely then, what is the plan for the animals who are losing that land? And where are you going with this in terms of preservation for animals and for the nature that's there? What are the steps? Not just, oh, we're going to leave the back parcel. No, I'm asking, what are the steps you're taking to preserve life of all forms? That's what I'm asking you.
Thanks, Janice. Dan Friend.
This maybe is a bit preliminary at the moment with the coming hearings that will be taking place on this issue, but I'm pretty well settled that I would urge the board to reject the proposed PDD. Like a few people have been saying, and like the very first speaker was saying, we need to pump the brakes a little bit on development. Why are we specifically developing in a sprawling way into wooded areas, places with lots of flora and fauna, with watersheds that we need to consider? Do we really need endless development? Do we need more senior housing? 20 years from now, the people that it's claimed this project is for will all be gone. And so we'll have 361 and 2-bedroom apartments that we probably don't really need more of them, considering there's a ton of them across the street. And the road that is going over to Hard Road, there's a ton more right there. When does this development end? Does it end? Or, you know, do we just become like Westridge Road in Greece? Has anybody ever heard someone say like Henrietta, where life is worth living? Like, no, that'd be ridiculous. Webster, I moved here. I moved here 12 years ago, and so I wasn't even here to see, you know, when Webster really was flush with green space. I've heard about it from my wife and from people that she grew up with, and it sounds like an incredible place. And it's really like half covered with strip malls now. It's a lot like the place that I came from, and part of the reason that I left was just it's the same strip mall, like block after block after block after block. So there's real value in just not developing everything into the ground. So I think we should also respect the comprehensive plan and reject this PDD. Thanks.
Thank you, Dan. Steve Daly, you're not going to read your letter, are you? No. You couldn't read that in 5 minutes.
I do have copies, so if anybody didn't receive my email.
They did. Yep.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor and members of the Town Board. My name is Stephen Daly, and I live at 1798 Jackson Road, and I'm an attorney with the law firm Citizen Environmental Law. And I'm speaking here tonight on behalf of a group of residents in Webster known as the Webster Citizens for the Preservation of the Holt Road Lumberyard Forest. By design, the designation of a new PDD district is a form of spot zoning, in that it serves to benefit a single landowner or a single parcel. It's allowed, though, if and only if it's found to advance the town's larger goals and planning objectives. The town code therefore sets forth 3 criteria that need to be satisfied in order to establish a new PDD. First, it needs to meet a community need. Second, it needs to be in the interests of the general welfare of the public. And third, it needs to be in harmony with the town zoning ordinance and its comprehensive plan. As proposed, the PDD for 799 Holt Road cannot satisfy any of these 3 criteria, let alone all of them. First, the proposed PDD is not in harmony with either the town's zoning ordinance or its comprehensive plan. There is already an overlay district at 799 Holt Road, and that is a woodlot environmental protection overlay district, a woodlot EPOD. The town code states that an EPOD is a sensitive environmental area. The applicant proposes to overlay a new large senior housing development on top of this sensitive environmental area. That is not in harmony with the zoning ordinance, nor is the proposal in harmony with the town's 2008 comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan addresses the very area where this project is proposed in the core office park area. It states that there are undeveloped parcels in the core area, such as the property, and those include wetlands and woodlot areas which should be preserved in their natural state. We saw the plans a few moments ago that Mr. Goldman stood up here and showed us once again, and that was not preserving the woodlot in its natural state or the wetlands that are present on that property. Second, until a few moments ago, there was no evidence whatsoever that the proposed PDD meets a community need. The applicant proposes 361 new residential units for the 55-plus generation. They propose to do so in an area on Holt Road where there are already 2 senior living facilities directly across the street. The applicant has not supplied any information until tonight, which I have not yet reviewed, but I'll submit that the presence of market demand is not synonymous with community need. Third, the proposed PDD is not in the interests of the general welfare of the public. The proposed PD will not benefit any more than one single landowner and developer. Meanwhile, the town at large will lose more of its vanishing green space. There are approximately 3,000 acres of undeveloped green space in the town at risk of conversion. This project puts 2% of that green space at risk. That's an area of about 50 football fields. And not all green space is created equal. As I've mentioned, there's a woodlot EPOD already on this property. There's federal jurisdictional wetlands as well. And it's also located next to the Hojack Trail, which is part of the town's trail network. The project as proposed cannot satisfy the requisite criteria for approval as a PDD. Now, Mr. Goldman, a few moments ago, raised the specter of a temporary taking. But there's no temporary taking. There's no taking whatsoever if you're not entitled to approval under the application that you've submitted. But there's another reason why this proposal should not move forward, and not at this time. The town has just started on the process of updating its comprehensive plan with an estimated completion date of mid-2026. The 2008 comprehensive plan was prepared 16 years ago. Simply put, the town of Webster is not the same place it was 16 years ago. Recall the 3 criteria for establishing a new PDD. It needs to be a community need, it needs to be in the interest of the general welfare, and it needs to be consistent with a comprehensive plan. In other words, how does the proposed PDD fit in with the town's current goals and planning objectives? Answering that question for this project is immeasurably harder, if not impossible, without an updated comprehensive plan to serve as a guide. Now, Mr. Goldman used a phrase when he was standing up here that caught my attention. He said, well, there's a comprehensive plan, if you will. Well, his comprehensive plan, if you will, is his interpretation of how development has unfolded in this area. That's not a guide for this board to render its decision. Unless we ask that the town board put this proposal on hold until the process of updating the comprehensive plan is completed. Unless there are any questions, I'll rely on the written comments I've submitted to the board, which also addresses the SECR process. Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, Steve wins because he was only up there 5 minutes and 20 seconds, and you were up there 5 minutes and 40 seconds, Jerry. You win, Steve. At least on the time on the podium. Is there any other attorneys in the room? Because if I've given the attorneys over 5 minutes, I feel like any other attorney, I got to do the same. Nobody says they're an attorney. That's good. Barb Kazanoff is next. Other person, sir.
I don't consider myself an attorney when I'm sitting here.
Good evening. My name is Barb Kasnoff. We've owned homes in Webster for 35 years. The first one on Adams Road, and currently we live at 784 Daventry Circle. We moved to Webster from the city of Rochester specifically for 2 things. I didn't want to stare out my window directly into my neighbor's window and the school district. So we purchased a home on Adams Road, wonderfully treed backyard, looks into neighbors' treed backyards, stunning wildlife through the backyard. We had enormous 2.5-foot tall pileated woodpeckers visible from our window, nesting in a hole in a tall, mature willow tree. I could give you more examples. Now, currently on Daventry Circle, this is a street of homes where all the backyards have been left wooded. We have an amazing parade of animals. We have deer, we have gray foxes. We have seen, while I'm walking my dog down the street, a hawk fly overhead, carrying a mouse, flew up into the tree next to Lady Hawk, offered her his mouse. This is what you get when you move to Webster, what we got when we moved to Webster, so we could enjoy the wildlife and a little privacy. Unfortunately, in 35 years, we've seen a lot of clear cut. We've seen a lot of cookie cutter houses. It pains me. I'm trained as a biologist. A young man just recently left. He is now training as a biologist. You need to recognize that Webster is directly underneath a bird migration flyway over Lake Ontario for the entire North American continent. We need more than just Webster Park. If you look on your cell phone at the 799 Holt Road address, Google Maps has a satellite image. The entire western parcel that we're talking about clearly shows from a Google Maps satellite image there are multiple creeks. I do not see how you can develop a large multi-story building with extra roofs and solid parking surfaces and avoid all kinds of drainage issues. Why would you want to pave over or build on top of a wetland? This is short-sighted planning. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. I'll be very short because we have more people who want to speak, but please pay attention to the conservation requirements that are in the comprehensive plan and my very expensive real estate taxes have paid for the last 35 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara. Next up is Diana Davis, Diana Davis is the reason why there's a little succulent at the end of the table in front of you, Keith. See it there? It was about a year ago, Diana, you got up on the podium and said, it's pretty scary getting on this podium. Could you spruce it up, maybe put a succulent here? We listened to her. It's not as scary anymore, is it, Diana?
It's slightly less scary.
There you go.
I do have to say, it reminds me of the feeling when you get up to bat. Oh, God, a lot of pressure. So I'm going to keep it under my 5 minutes. I'm going to address a couple points made by Mr. Goldman. So the PDDs being used, quite frequently, right, in the Office Park District to put in senior living facilities, right? And the argument is that because there's residential development in every direction, a precedent has been set. Well, just because there has been a precedent set doesn't mean it was necessarily a good precedent when you consider the amount of office park zoning that has been converted to senior living facilities over and over again. For me, it feels like there's enough of it. It seems like it's being used as a sort of little loophole to maximize the developer's profit margins rather than what it should be used for is a tool in order to allow the town board to meet a community need. Now, basically, okay, just because it would be an inconvenience then to the developer, so the second point that he made was just because that would be an inconvenience. The temporary taking has already been refuted by this lawyer that some residents have hired, great, okay. If you say that it's inconvenient for you to wait for the comprehensive plan process, right, to be updated, that does not mean that the town needs to capitulate, far from it, because is my understanding, right, according to this lovely process document, the resolution wouldn't be wait for the comprehensive plan. The resolution would be no, you're not getting the PDD because it doesn't fulfill literally any of those thresholds. So I honestly promise that I had these notes written before that lawyer got up and spoke. I said the same thing. Market demand for senior housing is not the same thing as a community need. And in fact, I called around, okay, and there's vacancies in all of Webster's senior living facilities that are not income restricted. Now, here's the thing. If there's vacancies in all of the senior living facilities that aren't income restricted, right, and you create your proposed senior living facility that's not income restricted, that's not meeting a community need, right? If you create it because there's vacancies, yeah? If you create it income restricted because of Prop 1, in the future, and this is another reason why I think this is a terrible time to be facilitating something like this, in the future, we're going to have fallout from Prop 1 where you can't discriminate a whole range of characteristics, but age is one of them. So people can tie you can't refuse me income-restricted housing just because I'm not a senior, because that's my civil rights that are getting violated, right? So you're essentially looking at a proposal, because of Prop 1, not for 361 senior housing units, but for 361 low-income apartments, if that is income-restricted. If it's not, again, it's just 361 normal apartments, which for other reasons we don't need, okay? Mr. Goldman also said, public welfare, it meets a public, this is good for the community because of welfare. And the only thing that he had to cite there was the road connecting, this is going to help with the volume. Well, yeah, you're creating a road to help with volume that you're creating, right, with 361 more units. So just don't put in the units or the road. I understand in future that is a goal and has been a goal of the town, but this particular development at this particular time is not the only way of getting that road. Thirdly, in line with the comprehensive plan. It's not. You can't say that development which has occurred since 2008 is the same as the comprehensive plan just because it's precedent. Very simply, the wake does not drive the boat, right? The plan is the boat, not the wake that it's left behind. And then you can't have it both ways. You can't on one hand say that, we have a plan, right, as that lawyer said, of sorts, and it's outdated, okay? And then just say we don't need to really look at that. We're going to let the development that's occurred outweigh all the different initiatives in the comprehensive plan. And in the letter that we submitted to you, I cited some of them. You can't say that at the same time as then you say, I don't want to wait for the new one to get updated. You can't have it both ways, right? You've got to use the one you've got unless you want to wait for the new one. And yeah. That's all I got.
That's pretty good.
Thank you.
Okay, Scotty Lynn is next.
I have to say, I appreciate the folks who are staying. It's wonderful. So I'm Scotty Lynn. I live at 150, where do I live? Near him, Fox Hollow.
Very close.
I came here in 1979. Let's leave it at that. I'm going to start by saying, first off, I'd like to thank the town for the leaf pickup services provided. As someone who lives in a heavily wooded area, it's actually designated an old growth beech forest. The trees provide an abundance of leaves, as Mr. Flaherty can attest. So I guess that's why I'm here tonight. I'm here for the trees. The value of preserving old growth forests speaks far beyond the immediacy and value to the present-day residents. It speaks to the respect of future residents who will appreciate and benefit from the preservation of those trees. As a heavy park user, I'm awestruck every time I walk through our parks and see hundreds of years old beech, basswood, oaks, maple, and cherry. My spirits are renewed, my mental health is improved, my stress is calmed. I truly appreciate that someone had the forethought to protect those areas and provide access to all. I also note the irony of our youth and park services planting saplings to repopulate and enhance our parks when acreage just miles down the road is clear-cut for development. What a travesty that the adults in the room only see dollar signs on a parcel of land and not opportunity to protect and enforce the priorities identified in town documents as long ago as the 70s, further prioritized in the early 2000s, apparently it's 2008, and without a doubt will be prioritized in the next comprehensive plan update. And unfortunately, if that doesn't accommodate your timeline, oh well. Additionally, with regard to park use, Webster parks are a treasure that are heavily used, as they should be, but in many cases stressing some of the trails with deep erosion, stressing trees with serious root exposure and damage. I could go on. My point here is to note that working with the landowners and developers is an opportunity to preserve green space, the old growth forest, thereby increasing access to trails as a potential park area in this densely populated 104 corridor in Webster. Old growth forests, according to my reading most recently, I'm not a biologist, I'm a retired English teacher, hence the reading. Old growth forests offer protection from fire, as they are least likely to burn because of the soggy soil surrounding them. So they actually act as a fire barrier. Thought that was interesting. Old-growth forests help protect our drinking water through filtration of water into the lake, or into the water table, the lake. Old-growth forests provide homes to countless species, as folks have addressed tonight. Moreover, the absorption of carbon emissions is a valuable environmental asset that cannot be ignored. I believe the town has an obligation to preserve what it can of the old-growth forest and require the designers to come up with a plan that stays well away from designated areas, specifically the old growth, to leave that area void of development, and also to require that roads, parking, and buildings are well away from root systems and harmful potential runoff. So I think the development is fine. Let's just be sensitive to how we do it. Finally, we talk about the value of green space. We talk about harmful environmental changes. We talk about doing the right thing. The plan presented by the developers is massive in scope, does not preserve the valued old-growth forested area, results in permanent changes to that fragile ecosystem, and actually it just prioritizes monetary rewards over what we say we care about for future generations. Our tree-lined 104 corridor is a unique feature that blesses us seasonally. This past fall, those trees were magnificent. While I recognize this plan makes an effort at some tree preservation, the plan pretty much decimates the old-growth forest. We can't continue to carve up, to clear out, clear cut, to shamefully disregard that which we cannot restore and say we care about Webster today and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Scotty. Okay, Dorothy Fate is our last signed-in speaker tonight, but I think some people came in after, so if you haven't spoken yet, right. I figured as much, but is Dottie? Yep, she is, okay.
Dorothy Fate, 742 Hightower Way. Supervisor and board members, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Much of what I had to say has been said, so I'm just going to highlight some things. I also found that in order to establish a PDD, you needed to follow 3 criteria. And specifically, the development of this property as presented is in direct contradiction to our comprehensive plan. This property was designated as a property of interest for open space preservation in every parcel review completed. And I'm asking the board to honor our comprehensive plan. I would contend that there is a silent majority of Webster residents who view the preservation of mature, undisturbed treed parcels as critical to the aesthetic qualities of Webster. Secondly, the board must show how the development of this parcel meets community needs according to our town code. The board has not provided any hard data to substantiate that this development meets current needs of Webster residents, current people living here. The development combined with the request to develop this development combined with the request to develop the 5-acre wooded lot adjacent to Birdsong Trail, Willow Point townhomes adjacent to an ecologically sensitive property next to the Irondequoit shoreline, and the heavily wooded property on Publishers Parkway speaks to the incredible development pressure the town is now experiencing. I would ask the board to consider passing a moratorium on any new ground development until Webster residents have had an opportunity to participate in an updated comprehensive plan. The balance between growth and the preservation of our natural, undisturbed spaces needs the board to consider the current residents of Webster.
Thanks, Dorothy.
Hello, my name is Anna Taylor. I'm the president of the Friends of Webster Trails. And I've said my comments before, so I'll just repeat some previous comments that we made. The Friends of Webster Trails was established in 1997, and our first trail that we worked on, and the reason that we were established was to facilitate the Hojack Trail. So our mission statement is to advocate for the preservation and the natural character of Webster's open spaces, promote this through the sensible management, education, and low-impact access, and advise the Parks and Rec Department and assist by planning, maintaining, and promoting recreational trails in the town of Webster. And since that time, we've established and built about 25 miles of trails in Webster. Our Friends of Webster Trails Board reviewed the concept plans that were available, and based on our review, we had some comments regarding the plans as they stand. Changes to the proposed site plan, we would recommend a vegetative buffer. The plan must be modified to include a thick, substantial vegetative buffer along the length of the Hojack Trail. A setback to make room for the vegetative buffer, setbacks must be increased to at least 150 feet from the Hojack Trail property line. And under no circumstances should the setback be measured from the middle of the trail. Friends of Webster Trails strongly opposes the clear cutting of the lots adjacent to the trail parkland, and to confirm that the forested area of the northwest area of the plan will be protected, and deforestation will be minimized. And then for mitigation to the adverse impact to the trail, we would like to see a trail budget, or we could, if a portion of the project budget would be committed to the trail improvements on this section of the Hojack Trail between Holt Road and Hard Road, which would include funds to purchase native trees and improve the trail surface along that corridor, part of the corridor. And also traffic, understanding that where the Hojack Trail crosses Holt Road at that location, adjacent to Charles Sexton Park, is a very heavily used pedestrian crossing, and that we would like to see a pedestrian activated crossing flashing light at that intersection, and to make sure that pedestrians, bike riders, and the like are kept safe. So that was our comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Is there anybody else who has not spoken who would like to speak?
My name is Stephanie Anello. I've been a resident here for, I think, about 10 years or so. I'll keep it brief. I just want to say that this is only my second town board meeting I've been to, and it seems to me that applying a PDD over an EPOD just sort of makes, I don't mean to sound rude, but it sort of makes like a mockery of what we're doing here. And I don't really understand what, practically speaking, an EPOD does for Webster if we can do, hypothetically, what is being attempted at the moment as far as this senior housing development. And I would also say, this is more an anecdotal thing, but I have a younger brother who is looking to either build or buy in Webster, hopefully next year. And I said, you know, Anthony, like, where are you looking? How about Webster? And he said, no, it's too expensive, and it's basically Henrietta now. That's what he said to me. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other takers? I see somebody standing up.
I know you came to Monarch.
Yes, I did.
I'm one of the people that lives in senior housing. I live in a Monarch.
But I'm trying to remember your name, and it's...
Rosa Eiserman.
That's it. All right.
And I just moved in like 2 years, it'll be 2 years from the city. And like I said last time, I love the city. Took me a while to get used to Webster. My sister lives here. And where I live at Monarch, they built 2 more buildings. I'm in the old building. And, you know, I've learned to like it a lot. And I think there are a lot of buildings, senior, I mean, I can see both sides because I also love animals. And we have birds and deer, and there's very strict rules where I live, like, don't feed the birds, don't feed the deer, you know, they're like, you know, really big about, I mean, I got reprimanded because I threw some bread out once. And, but, you know, they have a lot of restrictions in my senior housing, which I thought was 55 and over when they said senior housing. It's much older, and it's, like I said, I got used to it, but I'm used to Cobb's Hill, where I lived, was 55 and over, and they just developed a whole new development that I actually was on top of, you know, going to the city council meetings, because they were like these little, what used to be, what do you call it? Prisoner of war or whatever camps. They were like little buildings. Now they have one beautiful building built, and they're building another one to benefit, and there's a long waiting list. And not to get like really political, but Rochester management managed it, and they managed Monarch. Unfortunately, Rochester lost to Monarch, and we're now managed by Landsman, and I don't know, there's some issues always involved. I personally feel that it's not as good as Rochester, but they also run the CDS, it's part of CDS Monarch, and they run it the way they want to. I don't know what to say, but I could see their point, you know, like Mr. Goldman or whatever. They want to help the seniors, and there are a lot of senior homes, and there's a lot of apartments. I have friends that live at off of Shootcraft, but those are regular apartments. Some are subsidized, but anyways, I can see the people's point here about the conservation, because I always say to people, I said, oh my God, they're building another building. Where are all these poor deer gonna go? You know, they're getting killed in the road, so. With me, it's like 50-50. I can see understand what you're talking about, conservation. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. I don't know if I see anybody that snuck in after I got people signing. Is there anybody that hasn't spoken that wants to take the podium? Okay, that is going to then conclude the public hearing.
Okay, sorry.
What
You're
would
good.
you like to do?
You're good. My apologies.
That's okay. And then, is there any discussion that the board would like to have at this point on this?
I would say that I would like to thank all the speakers for not only their letters, but for taking the podium and expressing their concerns. I greatly appreciate it, and we will be doing much more research before a decision is made. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Jenny, any?
No, like I said, you know, thank you all for coming, and I can see both sides of the situation. And I believe that right now we're in the process of doing a comprehensive plan, even though that, you know, it's a few years down the road from now. Maybe we should just halt all the news projects and thank you, and try to do, you know, look at the moratorium and see what's go, because everything changes so quickly, and we don't want to down the road, and we have to go back and, you know, redo our codes. It's just my thoughts, you know, but we'll see. We try to work with everybody, and what best for our community, that's what we try looking out for. And of course, wildlife too.
Jennifer?
Nothing to add. There's a lot of information. Thank you for sharing it. Like John said, there needs to be some more time just to do some research and gather more information and let the process unfold as it's designed.
Patty?
I can't add to any of that. I feel exactly the same way, so.
I just got a lot of reading to do, and I took
Yep.
a lot of notes from what people said. And then we'll come back at a future date to see if there's a resolution to vote on this in the future. That really concludes the formal part of the meeting tonight. Councilman Cahill, you,
Yes, I'd put forward a motion to move into executive session in accordance with Public Officers Law, Section 105, Subdivision E.
1E.
1E. That's the motion.
second.
Second.
Councilman Cahill,
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty,
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi,
Aye.
Councilwoman Nguyen,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wright.
Aye.
And I would like to invite Attorney Charlie Genesi to attend also.
Second?
No, you don't need a second.
All right. Well, gang, what that means in layman terms is we're going to clear the room. We'll tell you this. Can't tell you what we talk about in executive session, but we're not talking